How far would you go for a second chance at the love of your life? Welcome to part 2 of Dangerous Games, the heart-pounding second half of a gripping standalone romance by T.K. Leigh, where passion collides with past pain, and the stakes are nothing short of everything. In this unforgettable story of redemption and reckoning, two souls are forced to confront the ghosts that tore them apart and the feelings that never truly died. As the web of secrets unravels, emotions intensify, and the line between love and fear blurs. Can a love that was once shattered be pieced back together, or will the past prove too dangerous to outrun? Dangerous Games is not just a romance. It's a raw, emotional journey of healing, forgiveness, and discovering that sometimes life gives you one more shot at the love you thought was lost forever. Get ready for twists, passion, and second chances that cut deep. Hit play and immerse yourself in a world where love is risky, but oh so worth it. Chapter 9. Present Day. I run my fingers over a familiar image, surprised to see it back in a frame and placed prominently on the dresser in Jesse's room at Graham's lake house. It brings back so many memories, not just of the day Jesse and I got engaged, but also of the day I ended things with him. It's remarkable how one photograph can bring forward memories of two polarizing events, a beginning and an end. I wonder why Jesse kept this photo, why he chose to display it up here. Then again, maybe he didn't. Maybe someone else did. Knowing the memories it would evoke, the feelings it would evoke, it worked. I see. The unexpected voice causes me to all but jump out of my skin. In my surprise, I drop my hold on the frame, which clatters to the floor, the glass cracking. I whirl around, my pulse racing, not at the invasion into my semi-private space, but at what Grams would think when she saw the photo I'd been admiring. What worked? She approaches me with little difficulty. Despite her 90 years, she certainly doesn't look her age. Her petite, slender body dressed in a pair of jeans and a simple cream-colored sweater. Her hair is a vibrant shade of platinum. Her skin wears the evidence of her age, but not to the extent one would think. In truth, she doesn't look a day older than she did when I last saw her. My plan. Of course. Your plan. I throw her a sideways glance, still confused. To reunite you with my grandson. Jesse and I aren't reunited. Not like that. She gives me a mischievous look. Not that grandson. Grams. I warn. It's curious, isn't it? What is? How the frame broke? She nods to the shattered glass on the floor. I scramble to pick it up, collecting the pieces in my hands. What is it about this damn photo I'm beginning to think it's cursed? It was an accident. I'll replace... That's not what I mean. My darling Isabella. She holds my gaze for a moment, her blazing green to my dull brown. I meant where it broke. Some might say it's a sign of what's to come. I look down at the frame. The glass is fractured between Jesse and me, a spiderweb of cracks obscuring him from being visible. All that's left is me. And Asher. I don't know what you're talking about. I fumble. This I always wondered about the two of you. A smirk tugs on her lips. Who, Jesse and me, I ask, my voice nearly pleading with her. I think we both know I'm not talking about Jesse. She places her hands on my biceps, her comforting touch like coming home after a long absence. There's nothing going on between Asher and me. I set the broken frame on the dresser, stepping away from it, as if it holds some contagious disease. Are you sure about that? Of course. Then why are you here? I open my mouth, then quickly snap it shut. Why am I here? I can't tell her it's because I'm getting paid to be here, although that's my main motivation for agreeing. At least that's what I keep insisting, despite my heart telling me there's a bigger reason, a deeper reason. Does your silence mean you don't know? Or are you too scared to admit it to yourself when I dated Jesse? Grams was one of the few people I could always confide in. In fact, she was the first person I raised my doubts to regarding my engagement. At first, it was exciting. But as summer turned into fall and I began my junior year of college, The fact we were at different stages of our lives came into sharp focus. The semester had only just started, and I already felt myself slipping away from my normal circle of friends because Jesse wanted me to attend his work functions with him. So instead of donning a t-shirt and a pair of jeans before heading to check out the local music scene with my roommate, I was forced to wear a dress and stand at Jesse's side while he schmoozed potential clients for the management company he'd begun to work for. When I mentioned this to Grams, the only advice she gave me was, "What's meant to be will be. No matter what path you choose, the second I met you, I knew in my heart you were meant to be a York." Now, all these years later, I can't help but wonder if she saw something I refused to. I peer into her kind eyes, searching for any sort of guidance, something I know she'll tell me must come from within. I'm just really confused. With a smile, she wraps her arms around me, kissing my cheek. Giving a piece of your heart to two men is never easy. Trust me, I know. You do. My voice rises in pitch as I pull back. Same thing happened to me. A few months ago, actually. I blink repeatedly. A few months ago. What she gives me a playful look. Just because I've spent 9 decades on this planet, you don't think I can date? I didn't say that. I flounder. Trust me, dear. She leans in. You're never too old for love. I stare at her for several protracted moments, trying to wrap my head around the idea of her dating. Then again, she was never one to adhere to society's expectations. Just because our culture says someone her age should take it easy and spend the last few years of her life relaxing, maybe knitting from a comfortable rocking chair. That's never been Grams. She's always lived life, would never want to leave this world in a nursing home. She'll go out doing something she loves. So how did you choose? You're assuming I have. She winks. Do you mean to tell me you're still seeing both men? She shrugs, looping her arm through mine and leading me out of the bedroom and down the hall. My darling, when you're my age, some things no longer matter. And you want to have as many orgasms as you can since you don't know when your last will be. Grams, I exclaim, my face heating. I'd like to say I'm surprised by her forwardness, but I'm not. This is quintessential Grams. The trick is to date a younger man, she whispers as I help her down the stairs. Although she doesn't appear to need it. Many men my age aren't able to perform. Then again, there aren't many men my age around. How young are we talking? Carl is only 65. She waggles her brows as we continue into the kitchen. But when you reach 90, 20-something years isn't that big of a difference. Great, a deep, gravelly voice interrupts. We both look in its direction to see Sean, Asher and Jesse's father, standing by the island, opening a bottle of wine. It's evident where Asher and Jesse got their height from. Sean measuring around 6'2" or 6'3". He has a slender physique, one I imagine he still maintains by his daily 5-mile runs. His hair has grayed over the past decade, but it makes him appear distinguished, as Chloe would put it. Sean York is most definitely a silver fox. Glad to see Mom's sharing all her dating stories with you, too. He winks, then approaches, kissing my cheek, as if no time has passed since he greeted me this way. Good to see you again. You too. There's nothing wrong with dating at my age, Grams states. I didn't say there was. Ma. But as your son, there are certain things I'd rather be left to the imagination. Grams places a hand on her hip. I'm not sure what your father, God rest his soul, taught you about how these things work, but you're only here because I had sex. I stifle a laugh. With each passing moment I spend with Grams, I become more and more at ease. Certain urges don't go away because you get a few more wrinkles. But if you'd prefer, I can find someone else to spend time with. I hear there are some amazing dating apps out there. She looks at me. What's that one called? Tingle Tinder? That's right. She grins mischievously as she glances back at Sean. I could find a new companion on Tinder, one I'm sure wouldn't be interested in anything more than my company. Please don't. I doubt anyone close to your age would be on there anyway. He blows out a long breath, shaking his head. Come on, we're in the great room. He places the bottle and several glasses on a small tray, then heads from the kitchen, making his way down a short flight of stairs and into a large room with vaulted ceilings overlooking the back of the property that abuts the lake. But with the sun having set, nothing but darkness surrounds us. The moon casting a slight glow over the snow-covered ground, Grams loops her arms through mine once more. As we descend the stairs, she leans toward me. He's wrong. There are people my age on Tinder. How do you think I met Henry? I fling my eyes to hers. You met a guy on Tinder, I whisper. I'm old. Not dead. The instant we step into the great room, Jesse and Asher jump to their feet. There are my two boys. She allows Jesse to hug her and kiss her cheek before turning her attention to Asher. There's an affection between them that wasn't there when she peered at Jesse, even though he's named after her, which accounts for the feminine spelling of his name. Then again, Asher and Grams have always had a unique bond. She brings her hand up to his cheek, and he briefly closes his eyes. I don't know many men who have this kind of connection to their grandmothers. Hell, to their entire families. It confirms the fact that the fame he's enjoyed this past year hasn't changed his devotion to these people. I hope it never will. Let's all sit and visit for a while before dinner. Reagan announces in the same pacifying tone I remember. She smooths a lock of her dark hair behind her ear, her brown eyes shining with excitement. It's not often we get together like this anymore, especially up here at the lake house. And to add Izzy on top of it, I'm not sure when we'll all have the chance to do this again. Come on, Grams. Asher grabs her hand, leading her toward the couch where he and Jesse were sitting on opposite ends. I'll take the reading chair. She pulls away from him. Isabella can sit on the couch, not allowing him a moment to protest. She lowers herself into the high-back chair. A self-satisfied smile crosses her face as she looks between Asher and me, both of us uneasy with indecision. I do my best to pretend this isn't a big deal, that there isn't some hidden meaning behind me sitting between Jesse and Asher. It's not the first time we've sat on this couch in this arrangement, but it's the first time since I slept with Asher. His eyes locking with mine, he extends his arm toward the couch. Shall we? My stomach flutters with the wings of 1,000 butterflies, the sound of his voice causing desire to flood through me, feeling all eyes on me. My cheeks heat as I make my way to the middle of the couch, lowering myself next to Jesse, who greets me with that same charismatic smile he always does, none the wiser to any awkwardness about this situation. When Asher sits down, I face forward, meeting Reagan's and Sean's content expressions. Sean pours wine into each of the glasses and hands them out. Once we all have one, he raises his own, waiting until we do the same. To things being back to the way they were. The way they were. Everyone replies in unison, which I do half-heartedly. I doubt things can ever truly return to the way they were. Not with this mess I've made. Chapter 10. So you're reusing your time up here as a writing retreat. Reagan asks Asher around a mouthful of steak as we all sit at the large dining table enjoying the delicious filet mignon Sean prepared. I always found it endearing how he loved cooking, a trait he passed down to his sons. I often joked that I needed to marry Jesse so I wouldn't starve. His kitchen skills far superior to mine, although I've improved since then. I hope to, Asher responds, his voice devoid of any excitement or enthusiasm. He's been blocked, Jesse adds from beside me. I try to stop myself from wondering if another woman ever sat in this chair. The idea of Jesse with another woman doesn't upset me like I thought it would. But a woman sitting in the chair beside Asher, I can't stomach the notion of him sneaking his hand under the table and squeezing her thigh. Of him leaning into her, whispering how beautiful she looks. Of him peering at her with all the love he once had for me. Now all I get from him is awkward indifference. I thought you'd written a bunch of songs. Sean offers. What did I hear you strumming earlier I can still write? I doubt I'll ever be at a point where no melody or lyrics come. But everything I've written. He slowly lifts his eyes to meet mine across the table. It's missing something. almost like a piece of my soul has disappeared. I swallow hard at the honesty with which he speaks. It's so heartfelt and pure, a stark contradiction to the games most other men play. But Asher has never been one to play games. He speaks from the heart, regardless of how much it may hurt him. That's why I proposed coming up here, even in the dead of winter. Jesse interrupts, reminding me of his presence. I tear my eyes from Asher's, grabbing my wine glass with a trembling hand and taking a large gulp. I glance around the table, no one the wiser about whatever just transpired between Asher and me, except Grams. She looks upon me with a mixture of intrigue and superiority, as if watching a carefully orchestrated chess match play out before her. You always did find this place perfect for allowing those creative juices to flow, Reagan offers with a smile. And what luck that Izzy's here too. It'll be like old times. Isn't that great? Ash. I try not to look directly at him, but I can feel his eyes still trained on me. Hell, I doubt they've left me since the second I walked into the great room with Grams. Absolutely, he replies curtly, the softness in his tone now nothing but a distant memory. Like old times, like nothing's changed. He stabs a piece of steak and shoves it into his mouth. What's up with you, Jesse hisses, leaning toward him. You've been a prick since we got here. You'd think you'd treat Izzy with a bit more decency after all these years. She never did anything to hurt you. I blanch at his words. Jesse's statement couldn't be further from the truth. I did hurt Asher. We hurt each other. But what choice did we have? We'd fallen under the spell of the bubble we created around ourselves. But bubbles can only survive for so long before they burst. When we crossed that line between friendship and something more, we knew it wouldn't last. I don't think either one of us was ready to crash to the ground with such finality. You're right. She didn't. He clears his throat. I'm feeling a bit off. He smiles a fabricated smile, pushing the Brussels sprouts around his plate. But Jesse's inquisitive stare remains focused on him. I ran into an old flame recently. He fumbles, chancing a glimpse in my direction. But she's still with the same guy she was all those years ago. Forget her, Jesse encourages. You're Asher York. If she doesn't see what thousands of screaming women at your shows do, then she's not worth it. He turns to me, nudging me with his shoulder. Tell him, Tell him what I ask with a shaky breath, the irony almost laughable. This dinner couldn't get any more awkward if we all sat here naked, that this girl isn't worth it, that he'll find the one when he least expects it. When I don't immediately say anything, Jesse continues, there are plenty of fish in the sea, and your sea is about to become infinitely bigger. He cuts into his steak, bringing a piece up to his mouth. She probably realizes she doesn't deserve you, I blurt out, much to everyone's surprise. Much to my surprise, too. All eyes dart to me as heat rolls across my nape. It's probably why she keeps pushing you away, why she's settling for the path she chose. Because she doesn't think she deserves your love. Why would she ever think that he chokes out? Maybe it hurts too much otherwise. Maybe she doesn't think it would ever work out. Maybe she doubts you'll ever choose her. Maybe she needs to stop trying to control every decision. He leans toward me, his voice becoming increasingly impassioned with each word. Maybe if she stopped thinking everyone would eventually hurt or abandon her, she'd see the truth that's been staring at her for years. And what truth is that, Grams asks in a pointed voice. She gives me a knowing look before returning her attention to Asher. That I'd choose her if she'd let me. A self-satisfied smile tugs on Graham's lips. Trust me, true love always has a habit of coming back. It's like a boomerang. She levels her eyes on me. You can run as far from it as possible, but it will find you. And if you're not careful, it will knock you out cold. Sean rolls his eyes. I always found their relationship charming. Whereas Grams is on the eccentric side, Sean is pragmatic, an admirable quality, especially for an investment banker. I often wondered if he took more after his father, but I never met him. He'd passed away when Asher and Jesse were young. Regardless of the differences in personality, there's no mistaking that Sean is Grams' son. They both have the same blazing green eyes. But make no mistake, she continues, true love will come back. Some things you can't fight, no matter what. Exactly, Jessie interjects, seemingly oblivious to the mounting tension between Asher and me. I have no idea how. Probably all the whiskey he's consumed tonight, like the way I couldn't fight the need to know who you were. He flashes me a lazy smile, confirming my suspicions that his judgment is most certainly compromised. Good. Hopefully he won't remember this strange conversation tomorrow. Which is why I pretty much stalked you until you agreed to go to dinner with me. Reagan sighs, placing a hand over her heart. When he first told us about you, I knew I'd like you, especially since you made him work for it. And she's making me work for it again. He announces. I fling my eyes to his, a silent question in my glare. He ignores me, the alcohol loosening his lips. You two are getting back together. Reagan's voice brims with excitement. When I saw you here, I hoped you'd decided to give it another chance, but I thought, we're not back together. I interject quickly, able to sense Asher's muscles tightening across the few feet separating us. I don't have to look at him to know that vein in his neck pulses with controlled irritation. Exactly. Jessie smiles at Reagan before floating his eyes back to mine. But I think Asher put it perfectly. He leans into the crook of my neck, and I can smell the liquor coming off his breath. He always was an overly amorous drunk. I'd choose you if you'd let me. The words don't carry the same meaning as they did when Asher said them. Don't cause my knees to weaken, my heart to pound, my skin to ache with the promise of his touch. A chair scraping against the hardwood flooring cuts through, the sound loud and jarring. All eyes turn to Asher as he stands, chest heaving, glowering at Jessie, who still doesn't seem to notice, or his brain's too foggy to register the obvious animosity in his brother's stare. Is something wrong? Grams asks, feigning confusion. Asher opens his mouth. I can physically feel his need to tell everyone what's eating him up. Instead, he blows out a labored sigh, scrubbing a hand over his face. When he returns his attention to the table, the fury and heartache are gone, his eyes almost vacant. I'm on a tight deadline. I should head back into the music room, see if I can find some inspiration. Would you like some company? I ask before I can stop the words from spilling from my mouth. The question, a natural one. At least it was a decade ago. I wouldn't be very good company right now. I nod subtly. Of course. Well, when I wake up tomorrow, I hope you'll have something I can present to the label, Jessie announces. One song would go a long way as a good faith gesture. I'll try my best. Asher makes his way around the table, everyone standing to wish him luck. He pulls Grams in for a sweet hug, kissing her cheek, then doing the same to Reagan. Sean gives him a slight hug, as does Jessie. When he reaches me, there's a brief hesitation before he places a chaste peck on my cheek. Later is, I don't know why that gesture leaves a sour taste in my mouth. I shouldn't care that he bid me goodnight in the same manner he did his mother and grandmother. Shouldn't care that his kiss lacked meaning, emotion. But I'd rather he not kiss me at all, if the only thing I feel when he does is forced complacency. Chapter 11. 1 year ago. A wide smile tugged on my mouth as I stood in front of the massive vanity mirror in the even more inordinate bathroom, toweling off my hair after a shower. I didn't have much longer until I needed to get out of here and catch my flight back to New York. After last night, I wouldn't have minded if it were canceled. Sadly, despite a blackout that left all of Vegas without power or cell service for a little over 12 hours, that power came on this morning, flight operations having resumed at the airport, including my own. I reminisced about the past 48 hours, and electricity filling me at how unexpected it all was. Running into Asher at a bar where he got up on stage and performed a song I hadn't heard in nearly a decade. Learning he'd been hired by one of the top bands in the country to help write the songs for their next album and was staying at their ridiculously posh house on the outskirts of the city. Watching the sunrise together before he drove me back to the hotel so I could get to the airport, only to find out my flight was canceled. Calling Asher, who offered a place to stay for the night, the sexual tension increasing with each passing hour, coming to a breaking point when the power went out. As much as I didn't want to blur the lines between us, something I fought against because of his relationship to my ex-fiancé, I couldn't help but feel like this was the path we were always meant to take. Maybe meeting Jesse was a stepping stone on my way to Asher. "Hey." Asher's voice cut through my thoughts, and I straightened, my heart skipping a beat at the way he looked in a pair of jeans and a simple t-shirt, leaning against the door jamb. His arms were crossed, causing his biceps to flex, which only served to make me want to drop my towel and feel him one last time. "Hey, so, I need to tell you something, but I don't want you to freak out." "Okay." He pushed off the wall, his eyes averted. From this alone, I sensed I wasn't going to like what he was about to say. He ran his hands through hair that was still damp from our sex-filled shower. That was Jesse on the phone. And considering the history between his brother and me, I doubted he'd bring him up unless it was important. Asher didn't say anything right away, simply staring at me. Then he sighed. "He's downstairs." "What?" My heart plummeted to the pit of my stomach, frantic eyes searching his for an indication this was a joke, that this wasn't real. But all I saw was the same honesty I always had from Asher. I pushed past him, darting toward my suitcase. I hastily threw all my items back into it, a need to get out of this house overtaking me. Do you think he knows? Of course not. Pretty sure he would have greeted me with a broken nose instead of a hug. Then why? He placed his hands on my biceps in an attempt to placate me. But nothing could. This all just got real. A little too real. I'd known what I was getting into last night, had known the ramifications and ignored them. The blackout bubble had seduced me into thinking we wouldn't suffer the consequences of our actions. At least not anytime soon. For once, I'd chosen to live in the moment, and now we'd both have to pay the price. He heard about the blackout and came out to check on me. From Boston. How did he get a flight if the airport just reopened? He licked his lips, his gaze steady, expression calm, because he doesn't live in Boston anymore. He swallowed hard. He lives in Los Angeles. He hesitated. "He's my manager." My body froze, his words a punch to the gut. "Your manager?" I squeaked out, blindsided. Granted, I'd never asked who his manager was, or if he even had one, but considering my history with Jesse, I would have thought he'd mentioned that little tidbit of information. It wasn't just a familial relationship I was dealing with here. Asher and Jesse had a professional relationship too. It was like learning the guy I'd just had amazing sex with was my ex's new boss. But it was worse with us, because I should have known better. There was so much more at stake than I ever could have imagined. Yes, he didn't embellish further, but he didn't need to. It made sense. Jesse was a business major, a natural salesman. He could charm the squirrels out of the trees in the dead of winter, even though they knew it was their only means of protection against the elements. There was no one else Asher would trust with his career. It was always their plan. I shook off his touch, shrinking into myself. Why didn't you tell me? It didn't seem like it mattered. Didn't seem like it mattered? I repeated, my voice rising in pitch. I quickly lowered it, unsure where Jesse was. For all I knew, he could have been eavesdropping outside the door. It matters. It matters a lot. So, what, you let Jesse in and then came up to fuck me one last time before dropping this bomb? My disbelief at this situation growing, I grabbed the first pair of pants I found in my disheveled suitcase and yanked them on, not caring about my lack of underwear. It's not like that. I'm as surprised as you are. I bought us a little time and have him in the studio, listening to some demos I've written for a solo album I have in the works. I slowed my motions, finding solace in the fact that Jesse was locked away in the opposite end of the house. Then memories from last night floated back and my eyes widened. Asher, my pants and tank top are in there. They have my perfume all over them. The same perfume I wore back in college. The same perfume he bought me repeatedly. If he picks them up and relax, he soothed, running his hands down my arms. I brought them back up here before letting him in. He nodded at the pants I just tugged on. You're wearing them. That still doesn't make this okay. I pushed out of his hold, grabbing a bra and slipping it on. Turning from him, after tugging on a shirt, I added, You should have told me. Would that have changed anything? I whirled around to face him, my mouth agape, about to insist it would, but stopped myself. Would it have changed anything? Would I have wanted Asher any less than I did last night, when he reached for my face and brushed his fingers against my skin? I couldn't help but melt into the contact. One touch was all I needed to reassure me that his intentions were noble, even if the outcome was less than desirable. I understand I should have mentioned it, but I didn't want to burst our bubble. Wanted to prevent you from enduring any heartache. He brought his lips toward mine, and I sighed at the promise of his kiss. Just like I tried to do all those years ago, I melted into him, digging my hands into his hair, his words wrapping around me like a blanket. But as the meaning in his statement sank in, I stiffened, pushing against him. What did you say? Disoriented. He blinked repeatedly. This time he was at a loss for words. What heartache did you want to prevent all those years ago? I stepped back, eyeing him with suspicion, a knot tightening in my stomach. He stammered, his breathing quickening. What heartache did you want to prevent? I asked again through clenched teeth, my temper flaming. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The answer was etched in the worry lines on his face, in his pleading eyes, in the hard bob of his Adam's apple. Oh my God. You knew. That's what you mean, right? When you said you tried to prevent my heartache, you're talking about that night, aren't you? Again? He remained silent. What was there to say? How could you keep that from me? You knew what I was walking into. Yet no. He darted his eyes to mine, that vein in his neck throbbing, his fists clenched, every muscle in his body vibrating with a passion I'd yet to see in another person, even him. I had no idea what you were walking into. But maybe you've forgotten, because the story you told last night left out quite a few things. I didn't think it necessary to go into all the gory details. Really defensive. He folded his arms across his chest. Is that why Chloe didn't even seem to know what happened? Why she appeared just as interested in the story as someone who'd never heard it? Because you didn't think it necessary to go into all the gory details with one of your dearest friends when it happened. Don't you always say that keeping the truth is as bad as lying? That's not the same, and you know it. The details didn't involve Chloe. What could I say to him? That the reason I'd left out so many details about the night I ended my engagement to Jesse was because of what I feared it would finally reveal. That the real reason I'd broken up with him wasn't because he sought comfort in another woman's embrace. It was because I realized I'd fallen in love with his brother. You kept something from me that affected me directly, I continued. According to what both you and Jesse told me about the fight you had before Christmas break, it seemed you'd written him off, even if you claimed you weren't sure about what your plan was. Hell, he said you tried to give back the ring, but he begged you to keep it. All the more reason he shouldn't have sought out his ex. I snipped back. Agreed. But you also can't stand there and blame me for this. You still should have told me what you knew about Jesse. God damn it, Izzy. He slammed his hand into the wall, frustration radiating from his fist, spreading up his tense arm and through the rest of his body. I'm not saying what Jesse did was right, but he was in a really bad place. I wanted to tell you Candace had started circling like a hawk again. His head hung as he expelled a breath. Then why didn't you? It wasn't the fact that he kept this from me that had betrayal flowing through my body. Once I'd realized my feelings for Asher, I knew I could never be with Jesse again. It was the realization of the truth that had been screaming at me ever since I first felt myself falling victim to Asher's hypnotic spell. He would always choose Jesse. He's my brother. His voice was choked as he brought his eyes back to mine. I couldn't betray him like that. All I could do was nod at his confirmation of my suspicion, the lump in my throat bordering on painful, cutting off my oxygen. This was the reason I walked away all those years ago, and the reason I should have walked away the other night. There was no possible way for us to have a happy ending, not when it meant hurting someone we both loved. And despite it all, I still loved Jesse, at least the Jesse he was when we dated. A loud chiming cut through the tension, causing Asher to flinch. I had no reason to believe it, other than a feeling in my gut, but I knew the alert was a text from Jesse. I didn't say a word, just glanced at the outline of a cell phone in Asher's pocket. I could tell he struggled between staying in the moment with me and seeing what his brother wanted. When it chimed again, he groaned, yanking it out. "You should go," I said softly, turning from him. "Distract him. I'll finish packing and be out of your way. Please, Izzy. I don't want to leave you like this. What can I do to make up for it? I'll do anything." I glanced over my shoulder as I was about to disappear into the bathroom. We both know there's nothing you can do. Jesse will always come between us. We were fooling ourselves to hope otherwise. He doesn't have to. We don't have to let him. I forced a smile, although my heart was breaking. I stepped toward him, a breath away. "I think you already have." He parted his lips, but I placed a finger over his mouth, silencing him. Then I hoisted myself onto my toes, kissing him one last time. A lone tear slid down my cheek at the finality of it all. Goodbye, Asher. Chapter 12. Present day. I blink away my tears as Tea Hat Day replays in my mind, the emotions as strong and vibrant as if it happened yesterday. It serves as the reminder I need right now. Despite Asher saying he'd choose me if I'd let him, it's most likely an empty promise. When it really matters, he'll realize I'm not worth him risking that relationship, that bond I can't even begin to comprehend. On a long sigh, I look around the tranquil bedroom. It's exactly as it was last night when I fell into bed. Yet it seems different. The dawning of day casting everything in a new light. When I reach for my cell phone and see it's already after 9, I toss the duvet off me. My feet hit the cold, hardwood floor, and I quickly step into my slippers before shuffling into the bathroom. After I splash some water onto my face, I readjust my dark hair, smoothing it back into a tight ponytail. Content with my appearance. I grab an oversized cable knit cardigan and pull it on over my tank top and pajama pants, then leave my bedroom. Silence greets me when I emerge onto the first floor, the house lacking the vitality and life it had last night. I continue past the living room and into the kitchen, expecting Sean or Reagan to be sitting at the island, Sean looking at a newspaper, Reagan with a book in front of her. Instead, it's empty. I make my way toward the dining area, peering over the railing and into the great room, which is also vacant. Peaceful, isn't it? I spin around to see Grams, leaning against the kitchen counter, surprising me once again. I'm not sure what to make of her outfit: black capri yoga pants, an off-the-shoulder black t-shirt with the Rolling Stones logo, and a Tibetan scarf wrapped around her head, the remains of the material flowing over her shoulder. I think that's why I've been spending more and more time here, instead of living with Sean and Reagan at their house near the city. No constant noise. You can really get in tune with yourself, I suppose. I smile as I walk past her. When I pop a pod into the one-cup brewer, the aroma of coffee fills the kitchen, comforting my soul. So have you? Have I gotten in tune with yourself? I'm already in tune with myself. I grab the milk out of the refrigerator, keeping my back to Grams as I pour some into my mug. If you say so. But I sense a struggle within, like you're at a crossroads. I face her. I'm not at a crossroads. It seems you are. She lowers herself onto one of the bar stools by the kitchen island and pats the one beside it for me to sit. Which I do. You have a choice to make. There's no choice to make. Everything is fine. No crossroads, no battle, no nothing. She squints, her analytical stare raking over me, lips pinched. Did Jessie or Asher ever mention a girl named Amelia Morgan? Not that I can recall. She was a friend of theirs. She floats her gaze from mine, peering into the distance. Moved into the district when Jessie was in 7th grade, but she was involved with the music program, so Asher knew her too. Throughout middle and high school, the boys spent a lot of time with her, usually in big groups. As is so often the case during adolescence, Jessie certainly had a thing for her. "And Asher?" I asked timidly. Not sure I want to hear a story about Asher and his long-lost love. I think he saw her as someone he shared a certain level of comfort with. There weren't any romantic intentions there, but Jessie didn't see it that way, especially when Asher told him he planned to ask her to prom. Why didn't Asher explain they were just friends? He did, but Jessie always felt like he grew up in his brother's shadow. At an early age, Asher exhibited a talent for music. Jessie always put on a smile and said he was proud of his brother's accomplishments. I think there's a part of Jessie that will always be envious of him. Even if there was nothing romantic between Asher and Amelia, Jessie saw it as another thing his brother had that he didn't. I interrupt, putting the pieces together. Precisely. I pause before asking my next question. What happened? When she brings her eyes to mine, they're sad. She disappeared. Almost 20 years ago now. Asher was 17, Jessie 16. One day, she never showed up for school. When the administrative office called to inform her mother, she said she hadn't been home all weekend, thought she was spending it at a friend's house. When that friend was questioned, she said she hadn't seen her since the previous Friday. By the time she was reported missing, it was hard to pinpoint when she'd been taken, or from where. Did the police ever find her? She blows out a sigh. No. During the course of the investigation, the police found out she'd gone to a clinic after school that Friday. She was pregnant. Was it Jessie's or Asher's? I nod. No. The police questioned both boys, since they were friendly with her, but both denied so much as kissing her. They believed them. In fact, according to all the kids at school, she was quiet, reserved, withdrawn, didn't have a boyfriend. That was why Asher had planned to ask her to prom. He was always a popular kid, could have had his pick of any girl, who would have gladly gone to prom with him. He said there was always something sad about Amelia, said he wanted to make her feel like she belonged. And it wasn't just an invitation out of pity. As I said before, he truly did enjoy her company, liked that he didn't have to pretend to be interested in her, as he did with so many of the other girls who sought him out. Plus, they had a similar taste in music. She was a fan of the blues, like Asher. I breathe. Exactly. So she disappeared without a trace. No body. Nothing in nearly 20 years. I shift my gaze forward. No wonder neither of them spoke of her. I doubt I'd be able to if I'd lost someone and never got any closure. Returning my eyes to Graham's, I furrow my brow, confused. That's a tragic story, but I'm not sure what it has to do with me. She pinches her lips together in contemplation. I'm not quite sure, either, she admits after a brief pause. I guess I just wanted you to know that you're not the first girl to come between those boys. I'm not... She holds up her hand, cutting me off. Don't underestimate the bond they share. You may think Asher will destroy his relationship with Jessie if he were to pursue something with you. He would... How could he not? It's been nearly 10 years, but Jessie's not over it. He still regrets it. He'd be crushed if he learned his brother and I started dating. She grabs my hands in hers, squeezing them tightly. Don't forget who Jessie is. He's made a career out of doing everything to help Asher achieve happiness. In the end, that's all Jessie wants for his brother. I truly believe with every fiber of my being that once Jessie realizes just how happy you make Asher, he'll understand. In fact, he'll probably be your biggest cheerleader, just as he's been for Asher all these years. But what if you're wrong? What if this does destroy their relationship? There will always be another girl. Asher will never have another brother. I repeat the same argument I've made to myself more times than I can count. Didn't you hear him last night? He'd choose you if you just let him. So maybe you should stop trying to protect your heart and just let him choose you. I part my lips, on the brink of insisting it's a fool's game, when she continues, "If you can't do that, you can at least bring the boy a cup of coffee." She nods toward the window over the sink that boasts a stunning view of the lake. The sunlight glimmers on it, casting a beautiful sheen on the snow covering the rest of the property. But that's not what catches my eye. It's the familiar figure sitting in our spot at the end of the dock. If I bring him a coffee, "Will you stop trying to play matchmaker?" I groan, feigning annoyance. I'll never stop trying to help two people who are meant to be together find their way back to each other. Playfully rolling my eyes, I push out of the bar stool and head to the counter, getting to work on preparing a coffee the way Asher likes it. Pretty sure Jesse wouldn't take too kindly if he found out what you've been scheming behind his back. Keep Jesse out of this. I don't quite think that's possible. Anything's possible. My dear girl. Now go. She shoos me away. I need to do my morning meditation exercises anyway. I arch a brow. Meditation exercises. Yes. No use starting the day unless I'm in tune with myself and the celestial beings. She presses her hands together in front of her and bows. Namaste, Isabella. I chuckle, wondering how many people get in tune with the celestial beings wearing a shirt with a giant tongue on it. This woman is certainly one of a kind. Namaste, Grams. Chapter 13. A wall of frigid air assaults me the second I step outside. A shiver rolling through me. I consider heading back into the house to put on a coat, or at least something other than my thin slippers. But it took me long enough to work up the courage to come out here and talk to Asher. If I go back to my room, I'll probably convince myself not to do this. I trek through the snow and toward the dock, keeping my head lowered to fight off the wind that whips sporadically. I try to remain as quiet as possible, but when Asher hears the groan of the wood under my feet upon my approach, he glances over his shoulder, his expression blank. There was once a time he'd greet me with a warm smile. That was before we muddied the waters. Figured you could use some coffee. I hold up the steaming mug, the aroma inviting. After yesterday, I fully expect him to tell me he's fine, that he just wants to be alone. To my surprise, he nods, albeit subtly. I slowly make my way to where he sits on the edge of the dock, extending one of the mugs toward him. He takes it, shifting to his left, an unspoken invitation for me to join him. I lower myself, place my mug beside me, and reach into my pocket, retrieving the origami dove I'd made before heading out here. When I toss it onto his lap, he flashes his gaze to it, then hangs his head. I'm the one who should be apologizing. What do you possibly have to apologize for? I mean, other than you being a bit of a prick last night? This elicits a slight laugh and I smile. But I can't fault you for that. I probably would have acted 10 times worse if the shoe were on the other foot. If you'd shown up out of the blue and I learned we were spending the weekend under the same roof, trust me, I have plenty of other things I should be sorry about, especially when it comes to you. He locks eyes with me before returning them to the frozen lake, snow-capped hills visible in the distance. In the summer, this view would be of fish circling in the muddy water, the occasional duck waddling about, and turtles sunning themselves on the rocky shoreline. Now everything is desolate, the normal inhabitants gone. Do you remember the first time you came up here, he asks, breaking the stark silence. A small smile tugs on my lips as I nod. It was the weekend before Thanksgiving, but your family was celebrating early because your parents were heading to their Florida house for the winter. They wanted to be gone before the snowstorm hit. They love the fall foliage, but the second they hear the word snow, they book the first flight out they can get. Or they used to before Grams got older. I remember. Jesse had told me about you before you even agreed to that first date. He laughs slightly, then takes another sip of his coffee. I grab mine and do the same, holding my mug between my bare hands. I'd never seen him so happy. So when he said he'd invited you up here for our early Thanksgiving celebration, I couldn't wait to meet the girl who finally made my brother smile again. I knew she had to be someone special. He pulls his lips between his teeth, his expression strained. When he walked into the house and I saw the woman at his side was the same girl I'd been checking out the past several weeks at a bunch of my gigs. The same girl who served as the inspiration for so many of the songs I'd written. My heart sank. Asher. I barely managed to say through the lump building in my throat. You want to know the funny part? His voice is pained, the vein in his neck throbbing with tension. What's that? I asked timidly. Not sure I want to torture myself any further with this story. I actually told him about you. Told him all about this amazing, beautiful woman who had these killer hips I couldn't stop watching whenever she danced. The wind picks up, almost howling through the barren trees, and I pull my cardigan tighter into my body. The cold doesn't seem to faze Asher. Even though he's dressed in only a pair of jeans and long-sleeved black t-shirt, work boots on his feet. The sole warm item of clothing he wears is a gray beanie, his dark hair jutting out from underneath it in all directions. I've always done well with the ladies. He blows out a nervous laugh. Unfortunately, all they saw was a guy with a guitar. They weren't interested in anything serious. I was getting tired of the random hookups. I wanted more. The corners of his mouth quirk up. Something about the way he peers at me makes me think he's been wanting to tell me this for a long time, maybe since that very first Thanksgiving celebration. I wanted you. Then why didn't you ask me out when you first saw me? I can't help but think all this heartache could have been avoided if he'd approached me sooner. If he'd asked me out before Jesse. Then again, there's no way of knowing for certain. We probably would have found another way to torture ourselves. We seem to excel at that. I can't explain it, but from the instant I noticed you, I knew you were different. Knew you wouldn't be the least bit impressed by some random guy approaching you at a club. I'd only get one opportunity with you. I needed to make sure the timing was right. So I waited. But, unfortunately, I waited too long. His expression falls. I guess that's why I acted the way I did yesterday. Walking into the living room to greet Jesse and seeing you beside him brought me back to the moment I had to swallow the hard truth that the woman I'd begun to fall for could never be mine. I knew there was a chance you'd have a boyfriend, but I convinced myself if that were the case, you wouldn't hit the local music scene as often as you did without him there. Jesse wasn't exactly a night owl. The second I saw you with him, I knew why you wouldn't be together at the bar or club. He chuckles, a momentary break in the tense atmosphere. He probably told you the same thing he told me whenever I asked if he wanted to come to one of our gigs. I actually never invited him. He was understanding of my time with my friends. It wasn't until I trail off, lowering my eyes as I continue. It wasn't until we were engaged that it seemed to become an issue. Or maybe it wasn't until we were engaged that I realized we weren't all that compatible. That we were two parallel lines. We could get close, but we'd never truly intersect. Not like we needed to in order to survive. Kind of like us. He lifts his somber eyes to mine. We'll never intersect either. Not like I wish we could. Seeing the way his shoulders slump forward makes me want to wrap my arms around him. Tell him that maybe we could. But we've been in this place before. I already know how this story ends. You probably don't remember, but during that first dinner, he asked me how things were going with that girl I told him about. My mind rewinds to that day. I never thought much about the conversation between Jesse and Asher, simply thought it was two brothers helping each other out, something I admired and respected. Now that I know the truth, I see it through a different lens. And you told him you found out she had a boyfriend? I reply in a distant voice. Funny thing is, I had every intention of finally asking you out the next time I saw you. Had this whole speech planned? I didn't know anything about you. But I knew whatever I said to you had to be good, had to be well thought out. Something about you made me think you wouldn't be easily persuaded by some cheesy pickup line. You deserved more. His Adam's apple bobs up and down in a hard swallow. At least more than I could ever give you. He briefly closes his eyes, drawing in a long breath. You were right. What do you mean that morning in Vegas? When Jesse showed up and burst our bubble, remember what we argued about? My lips form a tight line as I nod. About the night I broke off our engagement. Officially. And do you remember what you accused me of? His voice cracks. A ball of dread forms in my stomach at where this conversation is going. That you knew Jesse had been fooling around with Candace. You denied it. He hangs his head. And do you remember what you told me earlier that day when I met you and gave you the keys to the house? Before he brought Candace home and you saw them, I slowly nod. That I wasn't sure what I would do. That I needed to look into his eyes before I made that decision. That I'd know the answer then. And how did you say you'd know the answer? Because I'd see a piece of myself staring back at me. And do you want to know what I did? I went to the gig I had that night and prayed you didn't see a piece of yourself in Jesse. He floats his wild gaze to mine. Do you want to know why I swallow hard? No words coming. Because I wanted you to see that when you looked at me. Asher. I breathe, on the brink of telling him I did. That the reason I ended the engagement was because I realized I loved him. But he continues before I can get another word in. After Jesse landed, he stopped at the bar where my band was playing. I'd never seen him look so damn depressed. All because he still hadn't heard from you. I could have told him right then and there that you were waiting at the house, that it might not be over, but I didn't. We started our set, and the next thing I knew, I saw Candace sitting on the bar stool next to him, licking his proverbial battle wounds. I watched them leave together. I could have warned him, since it was more than apparent they were going somewhere more private, yet I kept my mouth shut. Didn't warn my brother he was about to bring a girl back to the same house where the love of his fucking life was waiting for him, all because I wanted you to leave him. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't try to talk some sense into Jesse. I'm sorry I didn't warn you. I'm sorry I didn't tell you the truth earlier. And I'm sorry I didn't grow a set of balls and approach you before my brother did. But you know what I'm not sorry about? I shake my head. I couldn't guess, even if I wanted to. Everything Asher's saying completely unexpected. I'm not sorry you broke up. I'm not sorry I slept with you in Vegas. And I'm not sorry for all the times I've thought of you since then. I'll never apologize for that, for how I feel about you. He stands, his long strides taking him down the dock and toward the house. Asher, wait, I shout, jumping to my feet and chasing after him, leaving our coffee mugs. He doesn't stop until my hand wraps around his bicep, forcing him to face me. Our chests heave as we stand in the snow. My slippers no protection against the wet and cold. During that same argument, you let it slip that you tried to prevent me from enduring any heartache. What were you talking about? His face blanches. I know it's not that night. It couldn't be. You just confessed you didn't try to stop Jesse. I get the feeling you wanted me to think it was so you didn't have to tell me what you were actually referring to. He stares at me for what feels like an eternity, then exhales. We hung out a lot once you started dating Jesse. Sometimes we spent more time together than Jesse and you did. I nod in agreement. All those hours spent together confirmed what I felt in my heart before I'd even spoken a single word to you. So I decided to finally come clean. Tell you I noticed you in the club, that I was going to ask you out, that I loved you, that I wanted you to choose me. Had it all planned out. We were all up here for the 4th of July. I decided that night. After everyone went to sleep and we were hanging out, I'd let it all ride. He shrugs as a sad smile builds on his mouth. But right before Jesse went to bed, he pulled me aside and showed me the ring. Told me he was going to propose the following day. So I kept my true feelings locked inside to prevent you from enduring any heartache over having to make a choice. Because despite the fact you were with him, I knew once I told you, it would change things. So in order to protect your heart, I broke mine. He turns from me, continuing back up toward the house. What would you have said, I call out. He pauses and slowly faces me. I take a few steps toward him. That night before Jesse proposed, What would you have said? His features soften as his gaze skates over my face. His mouth curves in the corners, and I see the Asher I once watched pluck away at the strings of his guitar for hours. I would have spoken from the heart. He closes the distance between us, stopping an inch from me. Separated by an invisible line both of us are too scared to cross. That the instant my eyes first locked on yours from across that club, I felt something I'd written about in songs but didn't think was real. What was that, a spark? There was this electricity that zapped my heart. He chuckles. It sounds crazy, but I've always believed in love at first sight. And when I first saw you, I knew. Knew what? He leans down. I crane my head back, still as drawn to him as I've always been. His lips inch closer, his warm breath dancing on my mouth, causing my insides to coil. That you would be the last woman I'd ever love. That even if you turned me down, nothing would stop that. That I may date other women, but they would never be you. My heart would never beat like it does for you. Licking his lips, he starts to erase the last bit of space between us. I place my hand on his chest before he can seal his declaration with a kiss. Asher, please don't. Don't push me away. Not yet. Just let me stay in this place where I can taste the promise of your kiss on my lips, where you haven't turned me down. He swallows hard as he finishes in a choked voice, where I still have hope for what we almost had. I sigh, closing my eyes. You'll always be my favorite almost. You'll always be my favorite almost, too, is. His cold fingers trace the curve of my face, along my cheek, settling on my bottom lip. I expect him to keep going, as he so often did when brushing the pad of his thumb along my lip. But he freezes. I open my eyes and am met with an Asher deep in thought. My favorite, almost, he repeats. His eyes glassed over. I watch as he bobs his head, almost like he hears a song in his mind. Then his expression brightens. That's it. Before I know what's happening, he links his fingers with mine and tugs me back toward the house, my legs struggling to keep up with his excited strides. Dozens of questions swirl in my head about what's going on, but none of that matters. Not when I can finally savor in the sensation of his skin on mine once more. Chapter 14. Asher hurries into the basement, not stopping until he's seated at the piano in the music room. I'm still confused about what's going on, about what epiphany my simple statement caused. But when his fingers slide over the keys as he experiments with a bluesy beat, I know. He's found his song. There's a frenzied air about him, focused and intense. It brings back memories of spending those long nights with him, sometimes in this very room, as he toiled over various melodies and lyrics. Not much has changed since then. The walls are still padded with egg crate foam to soundproof it as much as possible. A piano sits against one wall, various guitars on stands spread throughout the rest of the room. Cables and microphones fill a crate off to the side, put to use when Asher needs to record something. His low voice fills the space, his brain pulling lyrics out of thin air. Then again, that's probably not entirely true. They've always been in his mind, in his heart, in his soul. They just needed a little urging to come out, a little inspiration. As he plays the melody, I can almost hear the full band arrangement in my head. The beat is driving, the lower notes maintaining a steady rhythm under the lyrics about a woman and man stealing moments together. A kiss here, a touch there, all culminating in what you'd think would be an explosive encounter, but the story stops just shy of that. I've waited years to kiss you goodnight. I've waited years, and we've come so close. I've waited years to make you mine. Instead, you'll forever be my favorite almost. Time stands still as I watch him work, repeating the same melody as he susses out the right notes and lyrics. I bob my head in time with the addictive beat, a smile tugging on my lips as I lose myself in the energy he exudes. I've always felt drawn to this man and the music he creates. Even more so now, knowing I inspired this song. Then again, he just admitted I inspired him to write a lot of his songs. Probably all of his songs. He belts out the chorus he appears to have settled on, his raspy voice touching parts of my body that haven't felt anything in a long time now. A quiver rolls over me, every last nerve ending tingling. When he plays the final note, I expect him to start from the beginning again. Instead, I feel the heat of his stare on me as I sit beside him, his heavy breathing echoing in the stillness. I face him, swallowing hard at the fervor in his gaze. His chest heaves, his nostrils flare, his jaw clenches. Desire pools in his dark eyes as they trace over my features. He cups my cheeks, his grip harsh, fingers burrowing into my skin. It's so warm against my chilled flesh. My breathing increases, the roughness of his calloused hands lighting a fire that's lain dormant for a year now. But with this one touch, that match is struck. This time, I don't want anything to extinguish it. Tell me to stop. His words come out like a growl. Tell me we can't do this, that this is wrong, that this isn't what you want. I peer into his fevered eyes, shaking my head. It is wrong. We shouldn't do this, but that doesn't diminish the truth. I want this. I want you. So much. So much. He repeats, his grip on me tightening. He edges closer. My gaze is transfixed on his full lips, my need to savor them tuning out everything else. The risk of getting caught. That I wanted to keep my distance for a reason. That I know this won't end well. None of that matters right now. All that does is losing myself in the taste of his kiss after starving myself for too long. He runs the pad of his thumb along my bottom lip, the gesture causing my body to quiver. You like when I do that, don't you? All I can manage is a barely noticeable nod. It's a simple touch. He inches closer still, his breath intermingling with mine. There's no such thing, not when it comes to you. Every single one of your touches holds a power over me, and you will always own me. Always. He erases the final distance between us, and I surrender to him. Was that a new song? At the sound of the booming voice? Asher instantly releases me, and we both sit upright, flinging our eyes toward the doorway just as Jessie rounds the corner into the room. Mom said she thought she heard music coming from down here. He flicks his gaze between us. Not one hint of accusation lines his expression, only genuine excitement. An awkward beat passes before Asher clears his throat. Standing. She did. Can I hear it? You should play it for him. It'll be great on the album. I raise myself to my feet, pulling my cardigan closer to fight off the intense chill that seems to consume me. My limbs shaking at the idea of how close we were to getting caught. What the hell was I thinking? Asher floats his gaze to mine, a single brow raised in question, silently asking if I'm okay. I nod subtly, and he returns to the bench, drawing in a deep breath before the now familiar bass line surrounds me. When he sings the opening verse, goosebumps prickle my skin. I focus my gaze on Jesse as he taps his foot in time to the beat, worried he'll put the pieces together and realize I'm Asher's favorite, almost chewing on my fingernails, something I rarely do. I discreetly back away, convinced Jesse is bound to discover the truth. How could he not when Asher sings about a girl he's always wanted, but could never have because she belongs to another man, as he continues singing? His parents and Grams peek in to listen in on his latest creation. His parents look upon him with nothing short of pride. Grams is different, though. Whereas his parents and even Jessie may not have picked up on the story behind the lyrics, Grams does. She shoots me a mischievous smile, another advance in her game of chess. That was awesome, Jessie exclaims excitedly when the song comes to an end. He rushes to Asher, patting his back. I knew coming back here would help you get past this block. He steals a glance at me, winking. before returning his attention to his brother. Think you can work on a demo so I can get it to the label? Asher stares blankly ahead. Yeah, sure. His voice is even, a complete contradiction to Jesse's enthusiasm over the prospect of a new song. I can already hear this one being played non-stop on the radio. Hell, I can practically feel the rafters shake in the arenas when the opening measures fill the place and the audience loses their minds, especially your female fans. This song is sexy as fuck, Jesse Reagan admonishes. Language, his complexion flushes. It doesn't matter that he's 34. He still cringes whenever his mother scolds him for swearing. I find it endearing. Sorry, Ma. He looks back at Asher. But it's still sexy. The label will love it. This is the exact thing they're looking for. Sex appeal with soul. He stops short, glancing at his mother before returning his gaze to Asher. Freaking nailed it. Let's get a demo to them. Think you can do one here? I doubt there are any studios even remotely close to this place. Asher waves his hand around. This will be fine. It's not professional grade, but it'll do for a demo. Great. Jesse beams, his eyes alight with excitement. Then his expression falls as his gaze lands on me. I shrink into myself. Did he figure it out? Did the lyrics finally sink in? Why are you flushed? Flushed, I ask. Yeah. He steps toward me, analyzing me. Your cheeks are red, and you're breathing heavy. Are you okay? I part my lips, blinking repeatedly as all eyes in the room zero in on me. I stammer, suddenly feeling lightheaded. What is it? I asked Izzy to bring Asher a coffee earlier as he sat out on the dock. Grams interrupts, coming to my rescue when my brain refuses to fire. I guess I didn't take into account that she wasn't dressed appropriately. She gestures to my slipper-clad feet. I hadn't noticed how frigid I was. The rush of adrenaline from watching Asher work making me oblivious to everything. Now my entire body shakes. Your lips are turning blue, Jesse exclaims, rushing toward me, pressing his hands against my cheeks. You're freezing, baby. What were you thinking going out there like this before I can react? Jesse swoops me into his arms in a cradle hold. I can walk, I attempt to say through the strong chattering of my teeth, my body quivering almost violently. I've never felt so cold. Even my insides feel frozen. Not a chance in hell. You shouldn't have been out there in the first place. He shoots daggers at Asher before passing Grams a look of disapproval. The way you're shivering. You'll barely make it up the stairs. I try to glance back at Asher, but Jesse's steps are quick. The entire house a blur as he runs me up to the second floor. How could I have gotten so cold so quickly? I was only outside for 20 minutes. Max. Then again, I was outside in wet slippers in temperatures no warmer than 10 degrees. Then an additional 20 or 30 minutes in a chilly basement room. What am I supposed to do? Jesse asks, kicking open the door to my room. Well, what do you mean? You're the nurse. How do you treat hypothermia? I don't have high hypothermia, I argue, barely able to say the words through my trembles. For argument's sake, let's say you have a mild case. What do I do? Get me out of my clothes. Okay. He sets me on the bed, reaching for my cardigan to slide it off. I can do that. I insist, trying to push the sleeves down my arms, failing miserably. Oh, really? You're doing a bang-up job. Just stop. Let someone help you for once. Okay, I close my eyes, hating that I have to depend on Jesse. I consider telling him to have Asher come help, but doubt that would go over well. Although Grams would probably declare a checkmate if that were to occur. I nod, momentarily giving up my fight, allowing Jesse to take off my cardigan. When his fingers brush against my hands, he inhales a sharp breath at how icy they are. He grabs them in his, rubbing furiously. No. The movies lie. I manage to say. No massaging or rubbing. He instantly stops, keeping my hands in his for a beat before pulling away. Got it. He gets back to work peeling off my slippers. I steal a glimpse of my feet, noticing they're a brighter shade of red than they should be. I have to get under these covers. And I'll need more blankets, too. With a nod, he lifts the duvet, about to help me under when I stop him. I have to take off the rest of my clothes, at least my pee pants. Jesse blinks, mouth slightly agape. Oh, he swallows hard. I can ask Ma or Grams to come help if you'd rather. I'm sure they won't mind. I should take him up on his offer, but I'm driven by the need to get warm, something I don't think I'll ever feel again. You're here. They're not. And I'm fucking freezing. Jesse, so take off my goddamn pants. I order out of pure desperation. I need to help you into a standing position. He wraps his arms around me, carefully hoisting me to my feet. I rest my head against his chest, a tiny breath escaping at the warmth of his embrace surrounding me. It's so welcome, so inviting, so familiar. I can't help but find comfort in the way he holds me with the same affection he did all those years ago. Can you hold on to my shoulders? Jesse asks in a husky voice. Okay. He helps me rest my arms around his neck, then hooks his fingers into the waistband of my pajama pants, lowering them over my hips. You can sit again. With a hand on my lower back, he helps me lay back on the mattress, peeling my pants off me and dropping them onto the floor. After helping me lift my legs onto the bed, he fluffs the pillow behind me, pulling the duvet over my body. Are you okay to keep your underwear on? I'll be fine. I just need a few more blankets, and tea with no caffeine, if you have any. Of course. He brushes my hair out of my face, placing a kiss on my forehead. I close my eyes, reveling in the warmth of his lips on my skin. Then he pulls back, heading toward the closed door to my room. He's about to open it when he pauses, meeting my stare once more. Izzy, yes. He chews on his lower lip, rolling his words over in his head. I'm really worried about you. You don't need to worry about me. I'm fine. He smiles a sad smile. I'll always worry about you. Chapter 15. An arm encircles my midsection, pulling me into a warm, firm body. I know this body. I've experienced this body, and it's one I crave to experience just one more time. What are you doing? I rasp out, my eyelids heavy from exhaustion. Shh. Asher tightens his hold, his bare chest warming me. Body heat can help raise your internal temperature. His tone is lighthearted and spirited, a complete contradiction to the intensity from earlier today when he shared his truths with me. Is that right? I joke back, unable to reel in my smile. This is the Asher I fell in love with all those years ago. This carefree, vivacious man who always made me laugh without even trying. I've missed this man. I read it on the internet, so it must be true. I wouldn't trust everything you read on the internet. If I did that, then according to some gossip websites, you're gay. Would a gay man be this turned on by just the feel of you? He grinds his hips against me, making me whimper. I should stop this right now. After all, we're at his grandmother's lake house where anyone could walk in, where his brother could walk in. But none of that phases me, not when I've craved him for the past year, even longer. I couldn't tell him to stop any more than I could survive without oxygen. His hot breath nears the nape of my neck, making every inch of me tremble in anticipation. Cold. Quite the opposite. I exhale as he adjusts his body, pulling me closer into him until I can barely decipher where he ends, and I begin. Is this okay? He asks, lightly brushing his mouth against my shoulder blades. My muscles relax at the contact, all the tension rolling off me. Yes, I murmur, fire spreading through my veins. Good. His lips continue to skim against my nape, his touch achingly light. Before finding that spot where my neck meets my shoulder, his teeth clamp onto me. Asher. I writhe against him, my chest heaving. Is this okay? His tone this time is more gruff and demanding. Yes. Good. He delicately kisses the spot he just bit. the perfect combination of pleasure and pain. He gently pushes me onto my back, and our eyes finally meet. Ravenous desire greets me as he crawls on top of me, pressing a knee between my legs, nudging them open. I reach up and push his hair out of his face, needing to look into his depths with no obstruction. He lowers his mouth toward mine, every second ratcheting up my appetite more and more, my heart thundering against the walls of my chest. His lips barely graze mine, and I quiver. "Is this okay?" he asks yet again. "God, yes," I moan, closing my eyes as he erases the last remnants of space between us. A second passes, then another, and another. When I don't feel his lips on mine, I slowly open my eyes, blinking repeatedly at the sudden disappearance of Asher's gaze. In fact, Asher isn't in bed with me at all. The room is mostly devoid of light, heavy blankets weighing me down as I lay on my back, alone, disoriented. I prop myself up on my elbows and take in my surroundings, yelping when I notice Asher sitting in the reading chair in the corner, a tray of food on the table beside him. Jesus Christ! I clutch my chest in an attempt to slow my racing heart. Do you always make a habit out of sneaking into people's bedrooms and watching them sleep? I avert my eyes, praying he can't see my flushed expression in the dim lighting. I look around the room, noting the sun has almost set. I don't even remember falling asleep. The last thing I recall is asking Jesse for more blankets. Judging by the layers upon layers of blankets on top of me, he must have brought them to me at some point. Not exactly. Asher muses as I push the extra blankets from my body and lean against the headboard. Do you always make it a habit to moan my name in your sleep? I did no such thing. I bite out, cheeks heating. You're making that up. By the current shades of red on your complexion. You know I'm not. He waggles his brows. You should be happy I was the one who witnessed it, not Jesse. If you'd woken up 15 minutes earlier, it would have been... That would have sparked a few questions. I smooth the blankets on my lap, still trying to avoid his mischievous eyes. But it's nearly impossible, especially when he has that same spirited attitude as in my dream. Why are you here? And why was Jesse here before? He was worried. So was I. He stands, lifting the tray and carrying it toward me. I brought you something to eat. Figured you might like some soup. He sets it on the bedside table. Your mom didn't have to go through the trouble of making soup. Jesse overreacted. I lean over the steaming bowl and inhale the comforting aroma of chicken noodle soup. He didn't overreact. You shouldn't have been out in the snow. I was an idiot for not noticing how cold you were earlier. He sits on the edge of the mattress toward the foot of the bed. And Mom didn't make the soup, he adds as an afterthought. She didn't, I ask around a mouthful, the hot broth warming my insides. There's no way this is store-bought. Then who did me? I choke as I swallow, coughing several times before grabbing the water and taking a sip, setting the spoon back down on the tray. Gee, thanks, Asher jokes. Glad to know you're that shocked over the idea. I do know how to cook. If I recall correctly, I made some of my father's world-famous burgers for you in Vegas. What was it you called them? He pinches his lips together, tapping his chin, deep in thought. Ah, yes. You called them positively orgasmic. I know you can cook, I guess. I shake my head. I don't know. What I didn't think you'd want to drop what you were doing to make me soup, considering how time-consuming it can be. He leans toward me, squeezing my leg through the duvet. For you, I'd drop everything. I meet his eyes and offer him a smile. Today has been a wild ride, but there's no one I'd rather be with right now, despite all the unresolved issues between us. Thank you, Asher. The soup really is delicious. I'll have to put you on speed dial for whenever I get sick so you can come over and make me some. I would if you'd let me. I nod, swallowing through the lump building in my throat. I know. I hold his gaze another moment, then clear my throat, lifting the bowl of soup and eating another spoonful. So, did you cut a demo? He scrubs a hand over his face, I did. Jesse is sending it off to the label. He is, I ask over the bowl. How Grams put in Wi-Fi. Wow. Never thought that would happen. She did add parental controls. Said if she notices Jesse paying more attention to an inanimate object than a living, breathing human who isn't long for this world, she'll block his devices. I bark out a laugh. That sounds like something Grams would say. I eat more of the soup as we sit in comfortable silence. Asher keeps his eyes trained on me, but not in an overly amorous way. It's more analytical, like he's making sure I really am okay. You know what this reminds me of? I ask when I place my now empty bowl back onto the tray. What's that? That time I caught a stomach bug the same day everyone planned on a day-long outing on the lake. You stayed behind and took care of me, even when I was bent over the toilet and retching everything in my stomach. He blows out a laugh. I remember. You puked over everything. The floor, the sink, your clothes. I spent hours cleaning all of it while you slept it off. I hesitate before making my next statement. You undressed me that day. Remember? His ears redden and he smiles shyly. That's a day I'll never forget. If I wasn't jealous of Jesse before, I certainly was when I saw how amazing you looked in just your bra and panties. The vein in his neck throbs as his jaw tightens, his eyes flaming. The sight of you. His hands clench and unclench as he hisses out a breath. It was a good thing you were sick, because if you weren't, I couldn't have been held responsible for any of my actions. I smile, relishing in his compliment. You wouldn't have done anything, I say after a beat. What makes you think that making a move on a girl you know is seeing someone isn't really your style? He shrugs. Generally not. But people do crazy things for love. I sip my water. They most certainly do. So, he clears his throat, his tone brightening. Think you're up to socializing? Grams made a bit of a request. I arch a brow. A request. Family time. And what did she have in mind for this family time? He chuckles as he shakes his head. You won't believe this. She wants to have a game night. My eyes widen. Game night. Yup. To anyone else, this wouldn't seem like a crazy idea. But Asher and I have a unique history with game night, considering it was a game night turned risque that led to us finally kissing during that Vegas blackout. That led to us doing a lot of other things, too. Well, I say brightly, I doubt Grams will want to play Never Have I Ever and spice it up with a pair of sexy dice. You never know. He shoots back sarcastically. Grams can be unexpected. The best things often are. Chapter 16. How could you not get T-hat? Reagan exclaims once the sand in the hourglass drains to the bottom. Get what Sean shoots back in a light-hearted tone. You drew a blob with glasses. How was I supposed to come up with one smart cookie out of that? It's obviously a cookie. I even put frosting and sprinkles on it because your favorite Christmas cookies are those little anisette ones. Like I said, a blob. Dad, just apologize and move on. Asher interjects. At first, I was edgy when Grams paired Asher with me in this game of Pictionary, worried what we might reveal. But I think she forced us together for a reason. If nothing else, being on the same team, having to decipher one another's horrific attempts at drawing, has eased the tension. There are a few sly glances and playful winks, but I don't feel awkward. Even better, I don't feel awkward being with him while Jesse's in the same room. Ma's a lot more stubborn than you are. Asher continues. Plus, you should know to never argue with a woman unless you're prepared to sleep on the couch. Reagan straightens her spine, a smug expression on her face as she looks from Sean to Asher. I knew I raised you right. She winks. Looks like it's your turn, she says to him. Roll at least a 4. Guess the drawing. And you guys win. You should do the honors, I say, scooping the die off the table. That way, if we don't get to the finish line, I can blame you for throwing the game. I appreciate that, he retorts, his voice heavy with sarcasm. I figured you would. I extend my hand toward his, and he reaches for the die. When his fingers graze my skin, a rush spreads through me. I quickly pull away, acting as if I didn't just react this strongly to a simple touch. Finally, Asher rolls, forcing everyone's attention, including mine, back to the game. When the die lands on 6, I cheer while everyone else groans. He turns to me. You should draw. Are you sure you're better at putting words into picture form? He insists with all seriousness. I stand, heading toward where a whiteboard sits on an easel. I'm about to pull a card from the stack when he adds, "Plus, if I can't decipher it, I can blame you for throwing the game." He crosses his arms in front of his chest, a self-satisfied grin on his face. I place a hand on my hip, feigning irritation. But it's a lost cause, especially when I can't help but stare at how nicely his biceps fill out his t-shirt. His muscles aren't huge, but he's not scrawny either. His arms are perfect. He is perfect. Okay, let's win this one. Asher's voice forces my eyes up. When he waggles his brows, it leaves no question in my mind that he caught me checking him out, not wanting him to rattle me. I refocus on the game, grabbing a card out of the box. I look at the phrase for the permitted 5 seconds, then nod to Grams, giving her the go-ahead to flip the timer. I uncap the marker and get to work drawing something that hopefully resembles a prize ribbon. Almost immediately after I start sketching, Asher shouts out anything remotely applicable. Ribbon, circle, blue, number 1. At that, I turn around, motioning for him to keep going, that he's getting close. Winner, medal, best in show. I point to him. Doing more hand motions I doubt anyone would understand the meaning of. Best, I quickly nod, then turn back to the whiteboard, sketching 2 circles, hoping they appear like the planet Earth. Best planet. Best planets. He attempts. I shake my head, stealing a glimpse of the timer to see the sand is more than halfway gone. Best globes. Best boobs. I give him a disapproving look. My lips pinched, eyes narrowed. He shrugs playfully before continuing guessing. I glance between him and the board, trying to figure out another way to sketch this idiom. Best world. I spin around, eyes wide, encouraging him on since he's so close. Best of both worlds, he shouts out as the last grain of sand falls to the bottom of the hourglass. Yes, I exclaim, jumping up and down. Asher bolts from the couch, hoisting me into his arms and spinning me around before putting my feet back onto the floor. His enthusiasm infectious. We do our own version of a touchdown dance, wiggling our butts and waving our arms. With the way we act, you'd think we just scored the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl, netting us a healthy bonus. Okay, Jesse says, his voice even. You won Pictionary. You didn't find a cure for cancer. Sit down and stop gloating. Someone's mad they lost, Asher teases, tousling Jesse's hair as he passes him on the way back to the couch. Jesse quickly slaps his hands away, smoothing his hair back into position. I'll get you back. So, what's next? Asher asks as he begins to clean up the Pictionary pieces. Jesse stretches as he stands. Actually, I think I'll call it a night. It's only 10. For most people, that's a reasonable bedtime. He turns his attention to me. You okay? I'm fine. I'm not that tired, considering I slept most of the day. I'll stay up and visit a little while longer, make up for lost time. He squeezes my shoulder. Let me know if you need anything, no matter the time of night. I touch my hand to his. I will. He leans down, kissing my cheek, then retreats. We're going to head up, too, Sean announces as he and Reagan stand. We also go to bed at a normal hour. I suppose I may head to my room, too, Grams states. Don't even try to tell me you go to bed at a normal hour, Asher teases, standing to say goodnight to his parents and grandmother. I know for a fact you're as much a night owl as I am. You're correct about that, my darling boy. She caresses his cheek, gently running her thumb along the scruff of his beard, then pulls away. But nighttime is when all the crazy people message me on those dating apps, and I like to mess with them. Are you aware there's a trend among some intellectually deprived men to send a picture of their penis? I stifle a laugh as Asher's face turns a bright shade of crimson. No one wants to talk to a family member about dick pics, especially your 90-year-old grandmother. I've heard of such a thing. I don't understand it. I might be impressed if they were hung. But at my age, I've seen my fair share of penises. You have to try harder if you want to impress me. And 4 inches ain't going to cut it. Okay then, Sean interrupts, taking Grams's arm and helping her up the stairs. Time to get you to bed so you can sleep off some of that whiskey. You two stay out of trouble. She laughs, then turns around, meeting our eyes from atop the landing. Actually, maybe you two should get into a little trouble. It could be good for the soul. With a wink, she disappears into the kitchen. She's something else, Asher comments, a hint of nerves audible in his voice. I glance at him as he runs a hand through his hair, the confident rock star nowhere in sight. It's no longer Asher York, the man who earned a spot on this year's list of sexiest men alive. Now, it's just Asher. She certainly is. I bite my lower lip, fidgeting with the hem of my sweater, a strained silence filling the air. I start. Do you, Asher begins at the same time? We both stop, then laugh nervously. Okay, this is stupid, he states. It never used to be this way between us. That was before, you know. I know. He sighs, shaking his head as he lowers himself beside me. If I'd known it would end with me not even knowing how to act around you, I'd like to say I wouldn't have crossed that line. He lifts his fiery eyes to mine. But I probably would have. I knew it was a risk, but I also knew the reward would be amazing. A voice in my head tells me to retreat, to not ask the question on the tip of my tongue, to excuse myself and keep my distance, to do the job I'm here to do, then walk away. But if I listened to that voice, I never would have experienced this man's kisses, this man's arms, this man's love. The brain may be more logical, but the heart can be more powerful. And right now, my heart is infinitely more powerful. And was it amazing, I ask huskily, eyes resolute? It was. A sad smile tugs on his mouth. It could be again. A strange feeling of honesty washes over me, almost like we're in our bubble again. That's why I'm struggling so much with this, with being around you, because it could be amazing, but it will most likely destroy us too. That's the power you have over me. You hold that power over me too. But remember what Grams always said. Grams says a lot of things. I laugh. Are you talking about an arrogant bug is a cocky roach? Or maybe every hooker is pretty under candlelight? Asher's chuckles fill the room, his eyes shining with love for his grandmother. I wasn't talking about that, although, based on some of the prostitutes I saw in Vegas, I can attest to the fact that some of them are only attractive under candlelight. Is that so? I give him a disapproving look. I didn't take you for the type of man who needed to pay someone for sex. And I don't, never have, never will. I mean, sex is great. He floats his gaze back to mine, steady and even. But sex without love is as hollow and ridiculous as love without sex. Hunter S. Thompson, I state, recognizing the quote. Precisely. So, Graham's right. He licks his lips. I've been doing a lot of thinking, maybe too much, especially after our conversation on the dock earlier. I push a strand of hair behind my ear, lowering my head, but Asher won't let me avoid this, placing his finger under my chin and tilting my eyes back to his. And do you know what I realized? What's that? I just want you, however I can get you. So if all I can have are brief moments of awkward interaction every once in a while, I'll take it, if you want to be friends, although we both know we'll never truly be able to remain just friends. I'm happy to try that too. He edges toward me as he drops his voice, his tone throaty and addictive. But I'd love if you'd stop thinking of all the reasons we shouldn't cross that line again and focus on the one reason we should. What's that? Like Graham says, true love has a way of finding its way home. And in the past 24 hours, I've been reminded of probably the most important thing in all my 35 years. And that is, he traces a line along the curve of my face, sparks following his touch, igniting a fire in me. You're my home. Slowly, his lips inch closer to mine, the seconds stretching. My pulse increases, my breathing becoming ragged from a combination of hunger for this man and fear of Jesse walking in on us. I flick my eyes toward the kitchen to ensure we're alone. Don't. Asher's stern command forces my attention back to him. Stay with me, Isabella. Stay in this bubble. I sigh, tension rolling off me. I've really missed our bubble. Me, too. With a smile, he erases the distance between us once more. I close my eyes, bracing for his lips to brush mine. But after several long moments pass with nothing happening, I return my gaze to his, almost worried this is another dream. Thankfully, when I open my eyes this time, he's still here, his expression even, thoughtful. What's wrong? Nothing. Then, do you want to kiss me? His question catches me off guard. It should be an easy one to answer. I'm here, in his arms, a breath away from his kiss. But at the same time, I'm here, in his arms, a breath away from his kiss. As much as I've dreamed of this, fantasized about it, I've also been here before, on the precipice of crossing the invisible line we've drawn between us. Answer the question. Don't think. There should be no thought involved. Do you want to kiss me? I don't know. He nods, then drops his hold on me. Good. I scrunch my brow. You're not upset. Why would I be? He asks, dismissively. I'm not in the habit of kissing women who don't want to be kissed. But he clutches my cheeks, bringing my face within a breath of his. But the second you figure out what you want, the second you realize you can't keep running from this, come to me. My lips will be waiting for your kiss. He runs the pad of his thumb along my bottom lip, causing a tiny moan to escape. My arms will be waiting for your embrace. My heart will be waiting for your love. Whether it takes 2 hours, 2 years, or 2 decades, they'll always welcome you home. You need to finally realize this is where you belong. I can't force you to do that. You need to figure it out yourself. Chapter 17. I stare at the ceiling, studying the tree bark texture. As I have all night, the sun's been up for several hours, but I haven't slept a wink. Possibly due to the fact I slept most of the day yesterday. Most likely because my mind has been consumed with yesterday's events, culminating in Asher leaving the ball in my court about whether we continue what we started in Vegas or attempt to be the friends we both know we'll never be. Maybe if Jesse were the asshole I made him out to be to my friends, this would be easier. But he's not. He never was. Apart from a momentary lapse of judgment when he was in a bad place because of me, he truly is a great guy, kind, compassionate, gracious. That makes the guilt of what Asher and I have done even more painful to bear. Glancing at the time to see it's nearly 10, I push the covers off, resigned that sleep isn't in the cards. I pad into the bathroom, turn on the shower, shrug out of my pajamas, then step under the refreshing stream, washing off the past few days. After a longer than normal shower, I reach for where I remember the towel rack to be, my hand coming up empty. Peeling back the curtain, I peer at the wall. Sure enough, there's a towel rack, albeit empty. Shit, I groan, stepping onto the tile, searching the room for any sign of a towel. Given this is an older house, the tiny space can't fit much more than the bathtub, toilet, and pedestal sink, certainly no cabinets or linen closet, so Grams kept the extra towels on the top shelf of the bedroom closet. I hope she still does. I hug my naked, droplet-covered body and awkwardly dash into the bedroom, doing my best not to slip on the trail of water I leave in my wake. As I open the closet and find a towel, a knock sounds on the bedroom door. "Hold on," I mumble, securing a flimsy towel around my body. When the door unexpectedly opens, I fling my surprised eyes to it. Asher comes to an abrupt stop mere inches away when he sees me in only a towel that barely covers what it needs to. "What part of hold on did you not understand?" I shriek, bringing one hand to the top of my towel, the other to the bottom in an attempt to tug it down. I'm not sure what's worse, giving him a peek at a nipple or my hoo-ha. "I thought you said come in," he argues in his defense, ears red, gaze wide. That's what it sounded like. "Well, it wasn't—" I start to storm away, but skid on the puddle I left on the floor, in the hopes of breaking my fall. I drop my hold on the towel and reach for the first thing I can, which happens to be Asher. The unexpected force obviously taking him by surprise. He falters, his own feet giving out from beneath him. We crash onto the floor with a thump, him on his back, me on my front, on top of Asher, without a towel. Several long moments pass as I remain frozen in place, not so much as breathing. Heat flashes across my neck as I squeeze my eyes shut. Tell me this is just a dream. It's silent for a beat. Then Asher's throaty laugh rumbles from his chest, the sound more full of life than anything I've heard in a while. I hesitate, wanting to berate him for laughing at my expense, but the vibration of his laughter enthralls me, and I join in. If Jesse were to walk in, I wouldn't be so cavalier about this, but he's not here. It's just us, sharing a moment of embarrassment we'll both laugh over for years to come. At least I hope we will. I bury my head in his chest. I'm naked, on top of you. His laughter only increases, his body shaking, the sound addictive and mesmerizing. God, I love his laugh. Not because it has this deep baritone that hits me deep in my core, but because I make him feel this way. I make him happy. Not the first time. He reminds me, his voice having a flirtatious quality. But at least we were both naked then. I playfully pinch him in the side, and he yelps, "Close your eyes. I need to get off you." "You don't have to." He waggles his brows, lasciviously licking his lips, which earns yet another pinch. "Ouch, close? Your eyes?" I insist through a clenched jaw, trying to reel in my smile. An impossible feat when I'm staring back at Asher's sexy smirk. "You know, I have seen you naked. It's not a big deal. I can probably draw your body from memory." His voice turns seductive as his hand grazes my hip. His touch is light, barely there. Regardless, my veins flood with warmth. This time, it's not out of embarrassment, but unyielding desire. My hunger for this man increasing with every second I remain with my body pinned to his. His lips edge close to my neck, the brush of them against me causing goosebumps to prickle my skin. Every dip, every curve, I know them all. "Asher, please." I meet his eyes, begging him to stop. I need him to stop. If he doesn't, we'll pass that point of no return. Hell, we'll crash through it with fanfare. He studies me for a moment, then sighs. Okay. He makes a show of closing his eyes, keeping his hands by his head. His lack of touch leaves an emptiness inside me. My eyes are closed, so I can't see that adorable birthmark on the bottom swell of your right breast. Whatever. I roll my eyes as I carefully push myself off him, mindful not to slip in the water yet again. Once I've resecured the towel into place, I dash to the dresser, grab the first pair of jeans and sweater I can find, then lock myself in the bathroom, heart hammering in my chest. I lean against the door, doing everything to calm my out-of-control libido. But it's a losing battle. The feel of Asher's body against mine, his hands on my flesh, and his husky voice have brought back all those feelings I've tried to forget. But as I've learned, there's no forgetting Asher York. Something about him spoke to me before I even knew his name, and with each second we spend together, he embeds himself deeper and deeper into my soul, to the point where I'm no longer certain of the path I'm on. The path I should be on. I dress quickly, then run a brush through my hair before throwing it into a messy bun. When I step back into the bedroom, Asher's still here, but is now sitting on the edge of the bed, his gaze focused on the imprint my body left in the mattress. He smooths his hand over it longingly. "You still sleep on the same side," he remarks. "I always sleep on the same side." I switched. You know. My brows scrunched. I stepped toward him, stopping a foot away. "What do you mean I used to sleep on the same side as you? But after..." He licks his lips, shaking his head. "Well, after Vegas, I started sleeping on the other side." He runs his hand through his hair, making me want to reach out and feel his locks against my fingers. "It's stupid, but I liked pretending you were still next to me." He lifts his eyes to mine. I'd love nothing more than to wrap him in my arms. Tell him I did the same thing. Tell him about the countless nights I dreamt he was beside me, holding me, making love to me, only to wake up and realize he wasn't. But I can't. Don't want to give him hope. "So, what did you want when you knocked? Oh, right." He stands, clearing his throat. "Jessie took Grams to church." Grams went to church. I scrunch up my nose. I thought she'd always been vehemently anti-established religion. Apparently, after 90 years, she found Jesus, or so she claimed when she informed me this morning. They left early. She insisted on going to a church near my parents' house in Melrose. My eyes widen. She made Jessie drive back to the city. That's 3 hours away. You know how she can be. When she gets an idea in her head, there's no talking her out of it. We figure one of her gentleman callers, as she refers to them, goes to the church. Are you suggesting Grams went all the way to Melrose for a Sunday morning booty call? He pinches the bridge of his nose. Please don't use Grams and booty call in the same sentence. There should be a law against that. Okay, got it. When will they be back? He shrugs. Not sure. There's a snowstorm coming, so they may not make it back before then. Mom and Dad left early this morning, too. Dad's flying out on a business trip tomorrow, so he needed to go. They were going to wake you to see if you wanted a ride, but I said I'd drive you back to Boston if Jessie isn't able to get back in time. That's why I knocked. We need to leave soon to beat the snow. I'm sure you need to get home for work. I chew on my lower lip, averting my eyes. Actually, I lost my job. You lost your job, he repeats, concern evident in his tone. It's always a risk working for some of these big hospitals. The board of directors thought they deserved a raise, but in order to pay for that, they needed to take the money from somewhere else, like the nursing staff. I shrug. I was the nurse with the least seniority in my unit, so I got the axe. Izzy. When he reaches out and runs a hand down my arm, I don't back away. I'm sorry. I know how much you loved that job, how hard you worked to get there. It's okay. I force a smile, trying not to think about all the kids I don't get to see anymore. I'm a nurse. I'll find another job. Plus, I'm not sure I want to work for an organization that would dispense with their staff to pad their pockets so they can buy another yacht. The healthcare industry in this country is messed up. I blow out a laugh. Don't even get me started on that subject. So much for the edict to do no harm. The healthcare industry does a lot of harm. At least those making the decisions, not those of us trying to get people the help they need and deserve. Are you okay financially? I mean, do you need anything? I'm fine. The hospital offered a decent severance package. Plus, your brother's giving me a share of the royalties just for being here. Not to mention the 20 grand I'll get if you make your studio date. Will you stay? His voice is soft, expression even. It's reminiscent of the night he approached me at the bar in Vegas. He'd begged me to stay then, too. I knew I shouldn't, knew I should walk away, but I didn't have 20 grand on the line. I could walk away now if I wanted to. Ask my parents for help. I should ask my parents for help. Tell Asher to take me back to Boston before things get more complicated. But like that night over a year ago, I don't care about that. I'm cast under his spell, desperate to be near him, no matter the cost. And like that night over a year ago, I offer him a smile. Okay. His eyes brighten, muscles relaxing as absolute joy covers his expression. He frames my face in his large hands, and I tilt my head back, peering into his chestnut depths. I see so much in them: his pain, his victories, his struggles, but most of all, I see his love. There are many things I've questioned in my life. I've never doubted this man's devotion to me. Look, he releases his hold, nodding at the window behind me. I spin around and peer outside, noticing a few flakes falling from the sky. It's snowing. It's so much prettier here than in New York. A warmth spreads through me at how peaceful and serene this place is. Back home, all I thought about during a snowstorm was how I might have to sleep at the hospital so I wouldn't miss my shift. No need to worry about that here. He slings an arm around my shoulders as we both admire the landscape. You have nowhere else to be, darlin'. I like the sound of that. I nuzzle into his embrace. Me too. He tightens his hold, inhaling a deep breath as he feathers a soft kiss on the top of my head. I close my eyes, reveling in this moment. Asher's arms around me, snow falling outside, a house to ourselves. It's like we're in our bubble again. Come on, he says after a beat, dropping his arm. I'll make you breakfast. Breakfast, I arch a brow. I make a killer huevos rancheros. Who am I to turn down an offer like that? I take his outstretched hand, allowing him to pull me from the room. Better watch out. Though, a girl could get used to this. You shouldn't have to get used to it. You should be treated this way all day, every day.